All right. Welcome back to the Copywriters Podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Nathan. How are you?
I am fantastic because I've been sipping on green tea, honey, and lemon, and I'm on a caffeine buzz right now.
Woohoo!
All right. So for the people that don't get the show notes, you always tend to send me a picture to accompany the show notes when you send them. And today there's a picture of a really tall cop and a really short cop. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck does this have to do with the Copywriters Podcast?
Well, I just simply sliced the Y off the word copy and I got short cop, but it's really about short copy.
Let's just jump into it then.
All right. So, when I first started writing copy, and this was before there was an internet, we had an old saying. There is no such thing as copy that's too long, just copy that's too boring. And that was a great point back then, back in the day, because short copy was what you would see on very wasteful print ads and on TV commercials that were trying to convey a feeling rather than trying to sell something. But try talking smack about short copy today to someone who's writing ads for Facebook or Google or a display network. And short copy is now part of the toolkit of hardcore direct response copywriters. And now I'd like to share something really cool from my personal toolkit. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast. Most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims or if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health and finance and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. So let's talk about short copy, and let's talk about it and let's look at it from a new point of view. Because these days, to be an effective copywriter, if you're doing more than writing your typical long sales letter or a VSL or a webinar or a print ad, if you're doing more than that, if you're writing like the whole funnel, what is short copy that works for direct response in today's environment? So the kind of short copy we're talking about today is like if you took a regular old school direct response piece of copy, we're talking about the headline and the first 100 words, or maybe just the headline. And so let's talk about, just in case you're not familiar. Oh boy, the police are upset about this one. It's probably because of the short cop. Can you hear the sirens in the back?
I did. I think it probably was because of the short cop.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Thanks for your service. All of these old jingles and ads, they're stuck in my head. They're earworms. They're just rolling around forever. From the 60s, there was a product by Noxzema called Noxzema Complexion Lotion. It was, moisturizer, right? And they had a singing commercial that went like this. Only a smile could make you lovelier. Noxzema Complexion Lotion. I don't know. To me, that's, I guess if you have a consumer product and you have lots of point of purchase stuff, and maybe that works, that from a direct response point of view, they're not asking for the sale. It's a pretty watered down benefit. But these days, the intention there was, I guess, to make you think of Noxzema Complexion Lotion when you're at Walgreens or Dart Drug Store, in my case, growing up in DC in the 60s, and buy that one instead of something else. But these days, the intention is different. These days, short copy is the first step in an organized, purposeful selling process, which people often call a funnel. And it's a little different than what we used to do, but in old school terms, for for some of the boomer copywriters like me who've been around for a while, this is what we would call a 2-step or a 3-step process. Because the first step would be that, short copy that would lead a person to click, in this case, to the next step, and so forth. Let me stop there. And you come at this a little differently, but I think you also know what I'm talking about, Nathan, in terms of, the old school before there was an internet, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get your take on this. This has always been my approach. I take two things into consideration when I am plotting out how long a piece of copy needs to be. Number one, how big is the ask that I'm wanting from the other person, and how familiar are they with me or the product or the client that I'm working for? So if I'm asking for a click, I can usually get away with just 4 lines of copy, or even just a headline and a call to action. If I'm asking for $1,000, probably not so easy to get away with just a headline and a call to action. But same thing, if I'm working for a company that's well known in their industry, and I'm selling $100 product or $1,000 product, versus a company that's a brand new entry into the industry, the familiarity is going to impact whether short copy is going to work or not. If everybody knows this brand and everybody already trusts that, that means that I can sell a $1,000 product with significantly shorter copy than I can if nobody's ever heard of the product or the brand before.
That's right. I think that's exactly how it works. There's an example in Gene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising where he says, and he's really talking more about mass market consumer products than maybe the niche kind of stuff that you and I and most of our subscribers, listeners, viewers are selling. If you have, I don't think he used this example, but it's pretty close. If you have like a Nikon camera, and Nikon used to be even bigger than it is now, and you're offering a really good price on it or some really good bonuses. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows what it costs, and you're offering a better deal. That's about all you need to do. Maybe have a picture of the product and the price and a call to action. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
And I think your principles, your way of looking at it also works in terms of a funnel. A click is not a huge ask, but it is an ask. Even if you're not asking for money, you're asking for a person's attention and time, which are increasingly scarce and valuable commodities these days. So you are probably, if you're not really well known, you're probably going to have to work harder to make it seem valuable, even to give them the click. Let's talk about the concept of the horizontal sales letter, which I've heard, I think, used to describe webinars and VSLs. But if you make the horizontal as moments in time as opposed to a continuous stream, that's also a funnel, right?
I think so. I'm not familiar with this term, horizontal sales letter, so this is something that's new to me. I'm learning here as maybe the listener is as well.
Yeah. So, okay, good. So a traditional sales letter is vertical, not like a vertical market, but like vertical up and down headline, subheadline, lead, story, discovery story, or nightmare story, and so forth.
Meant to be read from the top to the bottom.
Right. The horizontal goes different. It starts somewhere and then it moves across, and it could move across time, like a video sales letter or a webinar, or it could move across almost stepping stones, like a funnel where the first stepping stone is the ad, the second one might be the landing page, the third one might be the lead magnet, and so forth and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go back to an old formula, which I don't use very much, but I think in this case it'd be really good for the concept. If you think of the old formula AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. And for sure, that's what needs to happen in any copy. You need to get someone's attention, captivate their interest, build up their desire to the point where they're willing to take action. Short copy, for the most part, I would say is just the first two. It's A plus I plus click here to find out more. Mm-hmm. Get the attention and then captivate their interest. And I'd really like your opinion on this, because I know you do a lot more work with funnels than I do, and probably work with people who are working on funnels too, coaching them. For short copy to work, there needs to be a connection between the A and the I, between the attention and interest at the beginning and the D and the A, the desire and the action later on. In other words, if you just write an ad before you've ever even thought about your sales letter, if you write a Google ad, Facebook ad, display network ad, and you haven't really thought through your eventual sales letter, it's going to be weaker. It's going to be lower conversion than if you thought everything through and then you shoehorn, backfill, then you do the A and the I. Because you don't want someone to, ice cream, sex, and all the money you want, and then it turns out you're not selling any of those. But you'll definitely get a click from people out of rank curiosity, right? What are your thoughts about that? And how do you go about writing the initial ad, that which is usually short copy, right? I have seen Facebook ads with a headline in like 5 or 6 paragraphs, which is longer than short copy perhaps, but a lot of it's very short. What are your thoughts?
So with my clients, the actual lift ads, the Facebook ads, the Google pay-per-click, those are always the last thing that we work on. So it's the first thing the customer sees or the prospect sees, but it's the last thing that we actually put together. So we put together what the funnel is going to look like, what the sales page is going to be, what the ultimately I want to start with what the eventual promise is, what's true north of this campaign, and that's going to be the sales page. And then we work backwards. Okay, so how do we make a lead magnet that leads to that? How do we make a webinar that leads to that? And then once we have that step, then it's how do we get a Facebook ad that's going to drive traffic to that? And we want to make sure that everything is pointing in true north towards the sales page so that people don't kind of get lost along the way. So for me, the short copy landing pages, the short copy Facebook ads or Instagram ads that we drive traffic with, those are always the last part of the process for us.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly how I would do it, and when I'm coaching people on pieces of it. And yesterday I was coaching a client on the funnel. In fact, I came up with 2 questions, which I'll save till the end, that I think would be really helpful. But that's exactly the approach I would take, and it's really good to hear the confirmation that that's how you actually do it. So what job does short copy, especially when it's at the top of the funnel, when it's the very first thing, what jobs does it have to do? It has to get attention and arouse interest. Okay. The other thing it has to do, and this is where you have to match some things. You're trying to put it moving towards ultimately the sales letter, the offer, the call to action on the sales side. But on the prospect side, you want to join the top of mind conversation in their head. You want to enter and this is where the real art comes in, where the real skill comes in. So it has to do both jobs. It has to lead congruently to where you're eventually going with your copy, but it also has to enter the conversation already going on in the prospect's mind, as Robert Collier put it, right? It seems to me that if there were a rule of thumb for this, it would be promise something that's unusually appealing, but at the same time still believable, and then get the click. Does that line up with what you know and what you do?
Yeah, I think also though, especially today, the attention part is really key. It's so hard to get people's attention, and if your ad looks like an ad, people are ad blind, especially on social media, and even when they do a Google search, if it looks like an ad, it's not going to grab their attention. But if it conforms to what they're looking for, if it looks like a search result, it has a better chance of grabbing their attention. If it looks like a Facebook post or an Instagram post over an ad, it's so counterintuitive because people want to put like explosion images with 50% off on it, and they think that that's the best way to grab attention, which maybe there might be something to it. But what I found is when it conforms to what people expect to see there, they don't automatically put up the blinders. I think that a lot of people are ad blind, and the best way to get attention nowadays is to not look like an ad rather than to look like an ad.
Okay, that makes sense. And actually, that's the same thing that David Ogilvy said and Ted Nicholas said, that you get about 5 or 6 times the readership on something that doesn't look like an ad, that looks like editorial or looks like a search result, looks like a regular Facebook post. That's good. Now let's talk about graphics and appearance, because in the old days there was a saying, ugly sells, and they didn't mean make your copy look ugly. They meant don't make it look pretty. Don't put on the makeup and the suit and the tie, whatever metaphor you want to use. Don't gussy it up. And the reason is exactly what you were just talking about. A regular sales letter works better when it looks like a personal letter or just a straightforward business letter, or an article in a publication. Now, appearance today, I think, is a little more important, but again, you don't want to go overboard. Great design is not always necessary, and I think fancy design or design that calls attention to itself, or over-the-top design, can actually suppress your conversions. But the right kind of really good design is important in short copy today because of the environment. If your copy is showing up in a well-designed website like Facebook or like a news site, or in Google search, you want it to have enough, we might call it conforming design, to make it look familiar and to make it look like it fits in, so it doesn't look cheap and sleazy. What do you think about all that?
I'm going to add something that's probably going to be a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
When it comes to graphics and copy, I'm killing it with memes right now. A lot of my clients come to me and they say, it was that meme that you posted. That's what kept reminding me that you're a copywriter. And I think that where people are going wrong, I mean, a meme, if you do it right, it is an image. It's a graphic with 5 to 10 words, so super short copy. If you do it right, they're attention getting, they get shared, and people love them, and they keep you top of mind. I think the problem is that I see with a lot of people that are doing memes wrong is they're afraid. Memes are supposed to be spicy. Memes are supposed to be attention getting, and memes are supposed to be almost to the point where you feel ashamed at laughing at it.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of more stuffy corporate people are afraid to run memes that actually will work. But when it comes to social media and driving traffic with clicks and using graphics and short copy, if your meme game is on point, you're going to see amazing results from it.
Yeah, I love that tangent. And it seems to me, so I haven't done any memes or many memes. I don't think I've done any. But it seems to me there's a surgical precision that goes into doing it. It's not that you get all tense analytically, but it's like you really have to thread the needle just a certain way in order to make it work. And I'm not going to ask you to describe your process because it's probably unconscious anyway, but would you agree with what I said?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to memes, the best thing to, especially if you're using them for marketing purposes, the best thing to keep in mind is this going to make somebody laugh? And is this going to make somebody say, man, I'm glad somebody said that?
Yeah. So memes are a lot like the um, more edgy comedians in a way. A lot of the things that way back in the day, Lenny Bruce and then maybe what more these days, Chris Rock and people like that. They said stuff that was true, but that no one was willing to say, and they were willing to say, and they took the heat for it. I'm pretty sure Lenny Bruce got arrested at least once for obscenity, but that was their thing. They had to do it. These days, you can do it and make money. Wow, see how much our society has evolved.
Well, and the thing is if you know what your clients are thinking, if you know what your clients, if you know what they're thinking about your industry, but nobody in your industry is willing to say it and none of your clients feel comfortable saying it, if you're the one who stands out and makes a meme and you can add some humor to it, but you can also say, yeah, there's a little bit of underlying truth here, they're going to be like, oh man, I'm so glad that person had the balls to say that. And it's going to get shared, it's going to get commented on, and it's going to keep you top of mind as, again, it's not the only way, but I kill it with memes. For me and for my clients, we've seen so much.
You do. I mean, since we had our show, I don't know, it's 2 or 3 or 4 shows ago where we talked about your approach to marketing yourself and to social disruption. I've been looking at some of the more edgy stuff that you've been putting up, and the number of shares is like mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Mind-boggling. I've never gotten that many shares. I guess my dad jokes just aren't working. I don't know what it is. All right, so let's zero in on copy for one thing before we wrap up. There are 2 questions, and this is less about memes and more about, I would say, more straightforward ask or invitation or offer benefit ads. 2 questions. I was going through a client's funnel yesterday. It was very good, but like everyone else who writes their own copy, they were a little too close to it to see a few things. I'm always able to ask this question and come up with some answers. And I guess it's because I'm really able to get into like the least alert, least focused prospect's mind. First question I have is, how can this be misinterpreted? Just because it says what you want it to say, will someone read it another way? Not necessarily that you will violate Facebook's community standards by saying it or offend somebody, but just they won't know what you're talking about, or they'll think you mean something else. I don't know how to explain how to develop that skill. So I guess you'll have to hire me for that. No, I really don't know how to explain it, but if there's, you want to get your short copy absolutely unambiguous. And then the second thing, and this is especially more important now, because of the whole coronavirus tragedy, even if it has nothing to do with coronavirus or health, do these words make your prospect feel unsafe? That doesn't mean walk on eggshells. That means in terms of what you're talking about between you and them, is there something that's going to make them feel a little uncomfortable about moving forward in your funnel? And again, maybe if you're not going to hire me or Nathan, maybe show it to a few people and say, tell me anything. In fact, for every complaint, I'll give you $1 or a Starbucks card or free swab or something. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Both excellent points. One of the principles of neurolinguistic programming is to take ownership of any miscommunications. Don't say, oh, that person was so stupid, they can't understand this simple thing. Say to yourself, they didn't understand what I was saying. I need to figure out where I went wrong in my communication.
Yeah.
And doing that immensely helps your copy. If you don't blame the prospect for not understanding, you say, hey, I must have communicated this wrong.
Yeah. Actually, a pretty universal principle of copywriting throughout when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. David, these last two episodes, man, have been so much fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed them. If the listeners are having as much fun and they want to check out more episodes of the podcast, where can they go?
They can go to copywriterspodcast.com. And I would like to make another disclaimer. We cannot always promise a police escort for every episode of Copywriters Podcast.
All right, man. You know what? I'm going to add that picture into this episode's show notes. So if you want to know the inside joke we've been making throughout the episode, go check out the show notes, and you can find that for episode 159 over at copywriterspodcast.com.
That sounds great. Okay. See you next time.
See you next time.
Okay. Bye.